It's fascinating to hear your start in politics, because it sounds like you've always been a straight talker and someone who's not afraid to ask the tough questions or raise the tough issues. Because your entry into federal politics it was quite explosive. And I think a lot of people might not remember, you actually were part of the Liberal Party for a little while. You were endorsed as the candidate for the seat of Oxley in 1996, but you were disendorsed because you called for abolishing special government assistance for Aboriginal people. You were smeared as all sorts of things. You won comprehensively anyway, which I'm sure was very, very satisfying. And then in your maiden speech, you said present governments are encouraging separatism in Australia by providing opportunities, land, monies and facilities available only for Aboriginals. Again, you was called the most awful things, called a racist and everything. But weren't you just calling out the Aboriginal industry?
This was the letter I wrote to the newspaper when I was a candidate under the Liberal Party standing for Oxley. And of course, they wanted me to apologise. They said, I'm not apologising for anything. And they went out and apologised on my behalf. And then the media came and asked me, are you going to apologise? And I said, no, actually, I've got more to say. That's what happened then. It came from Howard. It came from Howard, actually. They called me into the Liberal Party headquarters from the shop.
Wow.
And you should have heard the phone call that I got from them. You get effing down here. It was horrendous. And I said, well, look, I'm running my shop. I've got no one here. Did you hear what we had to say? This was about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, when I get my staff coming on and when I can, I will get down there. They said, OK, what time? I said, it won't be till about 6. So then I went down there and then they all lined up. They all came in from around the table. Graham Quirk was one of them. And they all round the table and they said, you've gone too far this time, you have to go. And I said, well, I want to think about it. It's a very important decision to make. And they said to my campaign manager, you better take her outside and tell her this is no time to start thinking about it. She's gone.
Oh, gosh.
And he said, they don't want you. And I said, well, look, I'm not going to be a yes person because one of the meetings I went to, John Moore was there, the Shadow Minister. I didn't ask the question, but another candidate did. And she asked a question, and he said, sit down, shut up, you know nothing, we know everything. And I thought, wow, okay, is this what politics is about, representing the people? So anyway, I walked out of there that night, got home around about 11 o'clock, got up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to go to the fish markets, took the car, and it was just hit the newspapers that day. I had chased with media and everything, and no, I made a decision I would stand as an independent. The public support was absolutely overwhelming. It was amazing. I got 42 booths covered by the public that came from everywhere, and I won the seat with the biggest swing in the nation of 22% from a safe Labor seat, the only Labor seat that was held by the overthrow of Whitlam in Queensland.
Oh my goodness.
And I won that seat. And Howard didn't think I could win it as a Liberal. That's why I had to go. He didn't touch Burgess, he didn't touch Bob Catter, but this female in the safe seat, so I was no loss. Well, he got a hell of a shock. Yeah. And then after I got elected and I was walking out of the chamber, he was behind me saying, excuse me, and I heard this, I was talking to Graham Campbell, I heard this, excuse me, and I looked behind, it was John Howard, and I just want to congratulate you on your win. I said, oh, thank you.
Well, that's very gracious of him, at least, that he congratulated you, yes. Yeah. Yes, I've always been an admirer of John Howard as well, and he seems like the type of man who is generally happy to admit when he's wrong, and that's good that he showed that he was gracious enough to congratulate you.
And he has over the years,
yes.
Daisy. A couple of times I've run into him, he's been very polite, always says hello. So it was lovely, and I've got to tell you this little bit. A few years ago, I ran into Peter Costello at the airport.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, hi, and I said, you know, that time that you threw me out of the party? He said, yeah. He said, actually, I was with John Howard at the dinner and your name came up. And he said, I had no idea who Pauline Hanson was, you know. And I said, you certainly know who I am now, don't you, Peter? sorry you got rid of me.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how that must have been so satisfying. And it's interesting. I've always felt that you've said not just what a lot of people are thinking, but you strike me as someone who's been very much ahead of her time, and that's why you've been picked on. I mean, you called out this Aboriginal industry. We saw the culmination of that with the Voice referendum, which was all about separatism and special treatment regarding race. You called out the problems we're facing with immigration a very long time ago. Do you think you were ahead of your time?
The problems are there. If you really want to have a look at it and understand politics, Daisy, politics is about you have to be a problem solver.
Yeah.
That's really the guts of it. And a lot of these people have no idea. You see, a lot of the people, my background has been a single mother. I've run a business. I've been on land. I've had cattle. I've been in plumbing business, the tradies, and hired apprentices. So my life has been very much, my experiences in life. Now, if you look at a lot of the ministers on the front bench of a lot of these political parties, they've never run their own business. They come up through the ranks either through the unions or they've staffers.
Career
they've never employed anyone.
Yeah.
Correct. So they're not problem solvers. And that's the problem. They're not. They can't see in the future. Look at all the work that we have done. Infrastructure, what are they doing? In the short term, if we had the people around us now that build the Sydney Harbour Bridge with their 8 lanes, imagine what sort of country we would have. But they're not forward thinkers. They're not problem solving because they don't want to put the time and effort into it. A lot of them are just yes people. They're the ones that get in the parliament. Oh yeah, okay, that's where the whip is. Yeah, I'll sit there. They don't even know what they're voting on.
And that's, what I think so many Australians are so frustrated with career politicians because we see everyone from Anastasia Palaszczuk to Christina Keneally. She's gone now, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But, they start in Young Liberal and Young Labor and they have absolutely no life experience. They've never had a real job. They don't have any real skills and they just sort of seem to be in it for themselves. Yeah, do you think that's one of the reasons?
That's the way it's gone. Yes, it is. And I've always had the attitude, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. If you don't like it, you don't want it, fine. Don't vote for me. I'll get on with my life. I've got so much to do with my life. But I'm passionate about the country. I want a fair go for the Australian people. That's why I haven't walked away from it. That's why the people haven't walked away from me. Do you know, I think I had about... I knew I had something to offer this country and I wanted to have a say because I'm sick of people being downtrodden. You can't have an opinion. You can't say anything. The way the country's changed with the political correctness, the woke, how we're going so woke.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And Daisy, I think it was... I was out of politics for 18 years, right?
Wow.
From 1998 till I came back in 2016. In between that period of time, I think I've stood for about 10, maybe 11 elections to get elected. And I've always just been pipped at the post because they didn't want me back into it. And it's the preferences that killed me every time. But I'm pleased that I did. I've rebuilt the party since I've been back in 2015. They asked me to come back to rebuild One Nation. It was just dead in the water. And it's been a lot of work, but I've had great people around me to help with that effect. Now we've got a member in the upper house in every state and the mainland.
It's incredible.
And we've got Melbourne, myself and the federal parliament, and I'm hoping to actually grow those numbers the next Queensland election and the federal election.
Well, I think there's certainly a huge potential to grow those numbers because there is so much dissatisfaction with the major parties.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think you were out of politics for nearly 20 years because you've always been such a presence. I remember growing up and I always knew who Pauline Hanson was when I was a kid and a teenager. And look, you were a huge threat to the Liberal Party in the late 90s. I mean, there was one point... I think in 1997 when the party was formed, there was an opinion poll that showed 9% of the country was supporting you, mainly at the expense of the Liberal Party. Is that why they attacked you so relentlessly? Because they could see
and
that
still
threat?
do, Daisy.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate their attacks on me now, also at the moment.
Well, yeah, they continue to do it. It doesn't hasn't stopped.
Yes. So I'm no friend of theirs by any means, and they do see me as a threat and to take the votes from them. Remember in Queensland, at the Queensland state election of 1998, we polled 23% of the vote and we won 11 seats.
Yeah.
And that's why from that, I was attacked and gone after and ended up in prison.
And yeah,
It was because of that. And Tony Abbott admitted, he said, She was a threat to us. I had to stop her.